Good evening. Welcome back to Ask 9 here in the streaming studio. Happy Monday.
Happy Groundhog Day.
I'm Becky Phelps.
I'm Jim Mertens, and neither one of us saw our shadows. That was what was weird.
I guess I forgot to look if we're going technically here.
I still don't understand. I got a little... So, Rebecca Vaughn
Yes.
has covered Punxsutawney Phil live at, what is it, Gobbler's Knob.
Gobbler's Knob, which every time I hear it, I think that can't be real.
Well, and I always think back of Bill Murray, of course, in the movie. But, I mean, I never quite understood the whole selection thing because, I mean, they hold up the groundhog and all these television lights are on it. Of course it's going to see its shadow, no? But that's not how it picks it. Supposedly there's two scrolls.
Yes.
I didn't know this.
Yeah,
tell me.
The people with the hats decipher what he's saying. They're like the chosen group of people.
The chosen ones.
Rebecca did a little. We had some of our meteorologists did a live stream earlier today talking about Groundhog Day, and they had Rebecca on to talk about that. And she had the photos of the guys in the hats.
The guys in the hats. Never trust the guys in the hats.
They're wrong a lot. Maybe
that's what they
not
said.
Them, but Phil is often wrong.
Like 70% wrong.
Yeah, it's and especially here, Camille broke down in Cedar Rapids. Mm-hmm. He's been wrong 5 out of the last 7 years.
Yeah.
So we could get spring, is what we're saying.
Yeah, and he's always predicting the 6 more weeks. And I because I asked Corey the same questions. I don't understand. Either 6 more weeks of winter or what? And it's an early spring. What's that mean? Like 5.5 weeks? You know, I don't understand
whatever
it.
your heart wants it to mean.
Jimmy the Groundhog is out of Madison, Wisconsin, Sun Prairie, which is a suburb just north. And the only thing I remember about Jimmy is he bit the mayor one year. which meant
Jimmy.
It meant 5 more months of winter, I think.
I didn't realize there were so many.
That was a number of years ago. I still remember that. Yeah,
I wonder
Jimmy.
if it was same Jimmy the next year.
Never trusted Jimmy.
Perhaps a new Jimmy arrived to tell the next.
That one's gone. Out of here. Yeah.
There's a Polk County Paula, apparently, in Des Moines.
I didn't know about that
I learned that
one.
today.
No. I know there's what...
forgive me if I got that slightly wrong.
I know General Beauregard is like in Georgia.
Now, is that a real one? Because some of them are puppets. Some of them are not
that one's a real
animals.
one too. Yeah, are you gonna trust a puppet? Oh, Kermit. Yeah.
Kermit, I would trust Kermit.
I
would trust Kermit.
And Fozzie and Kermit, I trust. we're getting
Our
off.
trusted local news stories.
we're getting off base here. I don't know.
All right. Regardless of what the next 6 weeks will bring us weather-wise.
Yeah.
We are tonight entering a very interesting phase.
Yeah, we got to talk about democracy.
We have to talk about democracy.
In action and actual voting, because although it is 2026, we're, more than 2.5, almost 3 years from Election Day.
And it's already happening,
it's already a big deal, of course.
Yes. So over the weekend, we learned that Iowa, as a state, has moved forward in the process by the DNC to possibly be selected as one of the early states for voting.
It's one of 12 states for the beginning of the presidential selection process. As you well know, it all changed in 2024 when it was New Hampshire first, January 23rd, followed by South Carolina, which is basically officially the beginning of it was South Carolina, Nevada, and then Michigan, and then Super Tuesday. Now, the Iowa caucuses were still held, but they didn't announce the results until Super Tuesday because for the first, and this is the Democrats only, not the Republicans, because they did mail-in voting. And it was kind of a way that the Democratic Party, the DNC, does not like caucuses. No. And so in the last few years, about 10 states got rid of their caucuses. But I was looking it up. Caucuses still remain in American Samoa, Hawaii, Northern Marianas, Alaska, Wyoming, Idaho, Guam, and the Virgin Islands.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's these small islands that still exist, and then also some of the traditional Western states that have caucuses for a very long time, being Alaska and Idaho, but those are so late in the nominating process that it doesn't really matter. So you might say, why is there a caucus as opposed to a primary? And as you well know, a caucus is really a party building event as well. It is a chance, a long time was that candidates would actually show up, but generally it's the representatives of the candidates who start pitching. It's kind of a convoluted order in order to reach consensus in the Iowa caucuses. And it was also really down to earth. It was because I mean I remember covering two of them, and they were in people's homes, and it was just like you really felt that it was like very earthy, very, very sincere people that were showing up for this. One of the reasons why that changed, of course, is now in public buildings more, is because of the American Disabilities Act, and it was to make sure that people could attend. But the big hit on caucuses, of course, is that people don't show up.
Yeah.
Primaries, people will show up. The other thing to remember is caucuses are run by the parties. Primaries oftentimes are part of a bigger election that's going on. So sometimes primaries, most of the time, are funded by taxpayer money, but caucuses are not.
Iowa having that early status was such a point of pride for decades. Nearly 50 years Iowa held that. After technical issues in the 2020 election that led to days of delays of getting the results, Iowa did lose that status. They're hoping they can regain some footing, some notoriety in the 2028 elections.
So much also depends upon who's in office.
Yes.
The Clintons did not like the caucuses because Bill Clinton never won the Iowa caucus. And Hillary just squeaked by the most narrow margin over Bernie Sanders, which also that meant that was a hit against her campaign very early going on. So the Clintons were not big fans, and I think that held over to the Bidens. Of course, Barack Obama winning the Iowa caucuses and then winning the presidency pretty much assured the place of the Iowa caucuses. And it's the same thing with Donald Trump, who really likes the Iowa caucuses. So he's repeatedly said Republicans will stick with the Iowa caucuses. So much depends upon who's in office. And if that person can point to the Iowa caucuses as a reason why they're in office, that's a guarantee that the Iowa caucuses are stronger. Now we don't have that.
For the Democrat side, as we learned more from the DNC this weekend, we wanted to get some more insight as to how long this is going to take, when we're going to hear next steps. And our TV9's Brian Tabak did an interview with Scott Brennan, who has been on a committee for the DNC and was very, very involved for a number of years, and has some fantastic insight into this topic. So we are going to play that interview from Brian Tabak and Scott Brennan with the DNC.
Joining me now is Iowa DNC member Scott Brennan. Scott, thank you for joining us. I first of all just want to start off talking with you about how the DNC committee conversation started with Iowa once again being a topic of discussion for the first in the nation caucus.
Sure. So today the Rules and Bylaws Committee met to talk about the 12 states that have applied to be what they call the pre-window, which are the early states. And so Iowa is a contender for one of the spots out of the Midwest. Iowa, Illinois, and Michigan have all applied out of the Midwest. In bigger picture, the DNC has said that they're going to select 4 or 5 states to be early states in the process. And so Iowa made an application.
They asked Iowa to come back with some plans as well. Can you talk with me? I guess, what do those plans look like, and what are they asking to bring forward?
Sure. So essentially, the DNC wants to know a little more specifics. I think, under Chair Hart's leadership, we submitted a very good response to the request for proposal, and now they want to say, put a little meat on the bones. And so at a date that is yet to be determined, Iowa will set out its specifics for its proposal on how we would run our state party run process.
Like you were saying, there are several Midwest states that are also in contention for this first in the nation spot. Can you talk about how Iowa plans to kind of separate themselves or make them look different from these other states?
Yes. The difference is, Illinois and Michigan are way too big. Um, what the DNC looking for is a sort of a rigorous test for a candidate. And frankly, if you have to go to Illinois or Michigan, really what you're doing is you're buying TV time. And that's not enough. In this world, it's social media and it's actually connecting with voters. And in Iowa, you can connect with voters. And one of the things you do to connect with voters is, you meet with people where they are. You can't do that in Michigan. You can't do that in Illinois. And so we need somebody who's been rigorously tested by the process that Iowa sets out.
So Iowa first lost this first in the nation. Was it back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken? Can you talk about bringing this back? What does that do for the caucus and for Iowa?
Well, in 2020, the Iowa caucuses had a lot of problems, some of which were, frankly, the fault of Iowa Democrats, and a lot of which were the faults of national Democrats. But Iowa got punished for that failure in 2024, and we were removed from the early part of the process. And so we would like to get back into the process, not because Iowans are arrogant about our spot in the process, but because it is the best test of presidential candidates. Barack Obama, he came through the Iowa caucuses twice and did very well. Pete Buttigieg, Hillary Clinton, we have put people through the ringer here, and that made them better presidential candidates.
That's Scott Brennan with the Iowa DNC. Scott, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Just another question here while I have you. One of the some of the reasons why we lost it after we lost it was because of a lack of diversity as well. Is that still a factor here, or what? How are we going to reconcile some of the other issues that were brought up when we were losing it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, is Iowa the most diverse state? No, under kind of traditional diversity markers. But the bottom line is that, national Democrats need to be able to reach out to folks, white working class voters. Iowa's diversity is greatly increased. We have our first Black state senator who just got elected. We have our first Latina state representative who just got elected, both Democrats. And so our diversity is improving and increasing all the time. But we also need to recognize that, diversity is also, white working class folks, rural folks, things that Iowa brings to the table that the other applicants frankly do not.
Can you clarify for me, did we lose it in 2020 and then 2024 was the first caucus after that, or was it actually 2024 that we officially lost it? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Sure. In 2020, we were the first caucus, the first process. And remember, that was the whole kerfluffle that, and then we were punished in 2024, frankly, by the White House, and we were not in the early process in 2024.
In 2024, as a reporter, I can only speak to that. It was kind of confusing to have Iowa still caucused, if you will, but our results were not released until March. I think it was Super Tuesday, right? If we released that information. Was there also confusion on the state side? What level of change needed to happen from the state level to make this happen still, not release it until later? And was there confusion? I guess is kind of what I'm asking.
Not really. I mean, it had been very clear that the White House wanted Iowa out of the early process. And frankly, I think the decision was made, and probably the right decision was made, to agree to work with the DNC. And so while we caucused at the same time as Republicans, we ultimately did not release the results until Super Tuesday. So we didn't violate any of the DNC rules. And we agreed to do that in that process because, frankly, that's what the president wanted. And so, president gets what they want. I mean, look at Donald Trump. He gets everything he wants. And so now, it'll be an open White House in 2028, and Iowa's making a full-on application.
Knowing that this is going to be an open election, like you said, there won't be an incumbent. Is this a bigger deal to have Iowa have the Republican and Democratic caucus in the state of Iowa?
Look, in my mind, it's very important. Not in everyone's mind, but in my mind, it's very important that both the Iowa Republicans and Democrats go on the same day. And, all the national media is here. And I think, frankly, it hurt Democrats when the national media were here focusing on Republicans and there was no major process on the Democratic side. And so I think it'll make for a better candidate going forward. And the bottom line is it's about winning the White House. We need somebody who can come out of a place like Iowa, appeal to a broad swath of voters, and win the White House, because we have a whole lot of things that we have to fix after this disastrous second Trump administration.
That's all the questions that I had. Is there something that you think is important for people to understand that I haven't asked about this process?
I don't think so. I mean, it's very insidery, and that's always kind of painful for folks. But the bottom line is that Iowa Democrats are in a great position. We have a great gubernatorial candidate.
I think he hit the
We
buttons
have
wrong.
really strong congressional candidates. We have great candidates up and down the ticket. It's going to be a very good year in 26 for Iowa Democrats, and national Democrats need to recognize that.
Any idea when Iowa needs to come up with those plans and bring them back? Is it at the next meeting? When is that next meeting? What are the next steps?
The DNC will meet again in April, but I don't believe that they will review. We will not do the presentation then. The presentation will be sometime after April. My guess is more likely late April, sometime in May. The Iowa Democratic Party staff, Chair Hart, and those of us who are involved will be working feverishly to get together the best presentation we can.
Next steps with that, again, in May or late April. So this is, again, we have a long time before 2028. It is a long, drawn-out process, but very interesting to see Iowa push to get that status back. I mean, that it was very, very important for them. It does a lot for the state.
Well, yeah, it's prestige and it's money. Ask any TV or radio station
Yeah.
how important that money is. But it's also the prestige, and there's money that also comes into the parties. And there's
Yes.
excitement then, and you get more people involved in the parties. Now, once again, the Republicans are going to have the Iowa caucuses lead off. President Trump has made that very clear to Jeff Kaufman, who is the Iowa Republican chair. So that's why this isn't an issue with Republicans. The other thing is that if you ever talk to Jeff Kaufman, he is one of the Republican Party chairman. He's one of the biggest backers of the Iowa Democratic caucuses. He's a strong believer that this is something that the state needs,
That's
that
true.
both parties have to kick off the presidential selection process known as the caucuses. Now, you may have also heard that in New Hampshire, they often talk about the Constitution and the fact that New Hampshire has to be first according to constitutional law. So I tried to look it up in Iowa
It's very
law.
interesting.
And yeah, in Iowa law, it just says delegates to county conventions of political parties and party committee members shall be elected at precinct caucuses held not later than the fourth Monday in February of each even-numbered year.
Okay, so it's specific.
Yeah,
But
but
doesn't
it's
say
late.
first.
Yeah, and that's the big. Now there might be somewhere else. This is where I looked it up. The fourth Monday or Tuesday of February, there's already stuff going. I mean, there's generally the Iowa caucuses have been as early as like mid-January, early January even once, and then usually like it's the first Tuesday in February. That's when it's usually held. But when I looked at state law, it's like it's not determined by state law and the Constitution like it is in New Hampshire.
And they did it a little bit weird last time where they had it early but waited to release the results.
Right, because they did the mail-in
Yes,
version
bit
and
of
all
a
that.
compromise of sorts as far as like going early.
Exactly, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And they were trying to test it because, like we said, the mail-in ballots made it more like a primary rather than a caucus, which appeased some people in the National Democratic Party. And releasing the numbers late on Super Tuesday allowed the early states to still get all of the attention. So that was how they appeased them in 2024. 2028 is a different picture.
Iowa, again, is competing against Illinois and Michigan for the Midwestern slot for early voting. So it will be interesting if they don't get the slot. Will they try another compromise? Will they get creative?
And it's more than the Midwest. I mean, it's 12 states that are vying. It's 12 states that made it through this weekend's DNC meeting, the Rules and
Bylaws.
Thank you, Rules and Bylaws Committee. So I mean, that's just part of the whole DNC, but it's an important step.
Yes, there are some caucuses tonight happening starting at 7 o'clock. Those are, largely.
It's party functions.
Yeah.
It's
Little
electing
informal.
people and all that to be party officials, so to speak. And Brian is
people
covering
together.
that tonight, and we'll have more on that tonight at 10. Because one of the questions we want to ask is, could Iowa Democrats go rogue, so to speak, if the party
More than a compromise.
Yeah. So if the party says no, you can't be, and Iowa still does it,
Yeah.
we'll see. Because it is still early, but Brian is covering that tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ask 9 tonight. As always, if you've got any questions you'd like us to look into, any topics, you can message us on Facebook or send us an email. Have a great evening.